Yep, there we go. All right, we'll call to order this March 17th, 2025 meeting of the Sturgis City Council. First item on our agenda is reciting the pledge. Please stand and join me in reciting the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight, Bill Myros is going to help us with our prayer. Thank you, Bill.
It's my honor. Before I pray, I just let you know that Brian Ross, who usually does this prayer, his wife passed away yesterday afternoon and was just asking for prayer, for comfort for their family during this time. Heavenly Father, your word says in James 1:5 that those that lack wisdom, let them ask, and you will give it to us liberally. And so, Father, now we ask that you give the mayor, city leaders, staff, and city council wisdom that they may solve problems, distinguish right from wrong, and bring order, stability, and prosperity to our community. Amen.
All right, item 3 is approval of the agenda. Is there anyone willing to make a motion to approve the agenda or offer a addition or a retraction?
So moved. Second.
We've had a first by Tony, a second by Jim to approve the agenda as presented. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Announcements and praise. 4.1 is the introduction of the newly formed American Legion Riders Post 33. We've got many representatives right in the front row, and I would hope that their primary spokesman would step up and talk about all the good things that we're going to do with this new group. Yeah, please share your name, and as many of you need to.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Craig Sanderson. I'm the commander of the American Legion Post 33 here in Sturgis. I'm also co-commander of the Sturgis Honor Guard, and we're really proud to be here tonight. And just a little bit of history. The American Legion was formed in Sturgis, South Dakota in 1920. We moved our present post home to its location at 868 Main in 1946. And all of this time, we have had an American Legion, we've had an American Legion Auxiliary, and since this is the city of riders, wouldn't you think it's about time that we have American Legion Rider chapter in Post 33? We are just tickled pink. I will turn this over to Larry Turner.
My name is Larry Turner. I'm the director of the new Legion Riders Post 33. Our missions mainly are funerals, escorting funerals, flag lines at the churches, funeral homes, and out at the Black Hills National Cemetery. We also, in nice weather, we escort the fallen soldier veteran with our cycles up to the Black Hills Cemetery and the cemeteries around here. We do a lot of work with high school, grade school kids with flag etiquette. We're trying to teach them the proper way of flags. And other than that, there's not much more that we do except try to keep in the community to be influencing people to have us help them out with stuff. So,
Outstanding. Well, thank you for coming to the council meeting tonight. And it took you a while to get formed, but
We got started on the 20th, or on September of 2024 here in Sturgis, so. And when we got started, weather seemed like it went against us, so we haven't been able to ride bikes, and then we had no funerals that went to the cemeteries, so.
well, the weather's changing, but let's hope we don't have a lot of funerals for you
Yes,
to ride. You get
yes,
a chance to
yes,
socialize.
He keeps asking for them, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is what we present to the families that have fallen during their time of grief. So here's our charter member post coin with the card we present to the families.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Okay. Continuing on with our, thank you. With our agenda, Councilor Thompson, are you willing to read the announcements tonight, the praise?
Most certainly am. We have several announcements tonight. Friday, March 21st, the History at High Noon continues. The Weber family history will be presented by Laura Caneva Friday, March 21st, and that'll be at the Sturgis Public Library right here in this building. That's at noon. Friday, March 21st also, Sturgis Love, Inc. has a Hope and Love banquet. Sturgis Community Center at 5 o'clock. That's Friday at the Community Center. And they've got, I believe Deb said 45, or Bill, was it you that told me that? 45 pieces of dessert that will be auctioned. And so Deb, thank you for your participation in that. Saturday, March 22nd, Sturgis Ducks Unlimited Banquet will be held at the Sturgis Armory. That's at 5 o'clock. On Sunday, March 23rd, it's a busy week. Sturgis Golden Kiwanis is hosting their annual spring fundraiser. That'll be from 5 till 6 p.m. at the Sturgis Community Center. Soup suppers, price is $10. Monday, March 24th, Sturgis Alliance of Churches Potato Feed. That's from 4:30 to 6 at the Sturgis Community Center, free will donation. We went to both of those last year. Very good services. Monday, March 24th, a week from tonight, sample ballots available, sample ballots will be available at City Hall and on the city's website starting March 24th. Absentee ballots will be accepted at the city finance office starting March 24th. Deadline for in-person absentee voting is 5 p.m. on April 7th. On Thursday, April 3rd, the 79th Annual Sturgis Chamber Awards Banquet will be held. Thursday, April 3rd at the Loud American. Social is from 5 until 7, a dinner presentation at 7. And my fellow Ward 3 counselor, Mark, you were with me at the forum, and would you like to speak about that a moment?
Oh, just thank you to the chamber for putting on the forum. Can't say that I liked the forum, but it's nice to have it to have us all there. So appreciate them doing that.
Not only presenting it, but also it was filmed and made as a permanent record, so people that weren't there would have an opportunity. So thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I guess final announcement might be that we've got an impending snowstorm. We're going to have some maybe snow route sort of connections. So help our public works out and our police department out with following the street snow removal rules in your neighborhood. The item 5 is non-agenda items that may come before council. If anyone would like to address the council, we want to keep the meeting moving. Please keep your comments brief and state your name and step up to the microphone. Is anyone willing to or interested in addressing the council tonight on a non-agenda item? How about members of the council? Anybody have something they want to bring up? No one? Okay. We will continue with our agenda. Item 6 is department updates. 6.1 is a COVID aid relief and economic secure CARES Act funding information report. Administrator Jordan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is a follow-up from last meeting's report. The money that we end up paying to the U.S. Department of Treasury. And so I did put a report on. I did put it in the packet for everybody, including the public, to see. Just kind of a summary. I mean, this started back in 2021, and there were a lot of communications, a lot of actions by people in the city and in departments that were trying to get this accomplished. In all the research that I've done and going through, talking with the people that were involved that are still with the city of Sturgis and going through all the email traffics and the reports, it was it looked like we had provided all the information multiple times. I went back and looked at the HRSA, the Youth, whatever that Department of Treasury Department, and looked, it was like I had a 132-page document about how to submit these reports. And it was pretty complicated, but there was multiple times that those reports were sent. However, at the end of the day, they did not have the sufficient data or in the sufficient format to be able to give us credit for that report. And that's where we end up getting those notices back in 2024 that the city would either provide those reports or we would have to pay back those funds that were provided us back in 2021. And it escalated until earlier this year. We got that final notification that now instead of owing $16,800 and change, now we owe just under $23,000. And that was when we made the recommendation to the Legal and Finance and the Council to pay that before we incurred any more penalties. If there's anybody to be is held accountable for this, it's me. It was underneath my watch that we went from 16 and change up to 23,000. And we are identifying what those problems were. But again, the person that's most accountable is me because that happened underneath my watch. Now, what do you do with when we make mistakes? How do we learn from those mistakes? And the key thing here that from what I've seen, and I've socialized this with some of our key staff, is that in getting those federal grants, we would have a department that we kind of held responsible to provide all those reports back to that federal agency. And in this case, this was a very complicated report. And probably not the best thing to do for us. That's something that needs to stay underneath my preview as a city administrator. And I may get information from all the departments that are participating in that federal grant in terms of information, in terms of reports. But ultimately, it's my responsibility as a city administrator to make sure those reports are in, that they meet the standards, and that they get done on time. So going forward, we do have some of those in other departments, for example, down in public works, because we've gotten some funds to help us out with projects. And we'll just, as we go forward in the future, if we get those opportunities to get federal grants, that will, then again, I'll be the one that's held responsible for that process, working with all the departments to get the information to submit for those federal grants. And then it'll be my responsibility to ensure that we meet all the requirements of the spending in terms of what those requirements are and also the reporting. There was no one person that was held accountable for this. If there was a failure early on, it was more of a team failure, but it wasn't because of a lack of effort. All the way from the finance office to the ambulance department, they were working diligently to provide that information. It just, for whatever reason, we just didn't meet what those standards were. Unfortunately, we did pay the $23,000, just under $23,000. About the same time, they did start taking some of our repayments from the VA hospital and Medicare. And when they pay us, those two entities, it goes to the Department of Treasury, and then the Department of Treasury provides those funds back to us, back to the ambulance department. And since at that time, this has happened, I think we sent the check on March 5th, and that was the day that I saw the first report where they had started capturing those repayments through those funds coming back from the VA and Medicare. We contacted them. Once they have our check in hand, then we'll start the process to recover those funds that were paid from the VA hospital or Medicare that they end up capturing. So there's still work to be done on that, because at the moment, we've paid basically almost as twice, because they've, from the reports I've seen, I think they've already captured about 20,000 of that 22,000 in capturing those payments from the VA and the Medicare. So we still got some work to do to capture those, get that back. So pending any questions on the COVID report.
By any option or an opportunity to recoup some of that money back if we were to show corrective reports, or is it a wash completely at the 22,000?
Well, I wouldn't say absolutely it's a wash. I think it's going to be a challenge. It will take some time to, go through that reporting manual to have a completely understanding of what we need to provide. But we definitely take a look at that and provide that info, get that going. First thing is right now is to try to recover the funds that they've already taken from through the repayments of the VA and Medicare.
Any other questions from council? How about members of the public? Any questions about the COVID report? Continuing on to segment 7, mayor's report. We've got 3 items on there. They're just positions that we backfilled. New members in our custodial department, liquor store, liquor sales clerk, and at the community center, a lifeguard. Just informational. Item 8 is our consent agenda. There's some minutes from our special meeting and our regular meeting before that. Some volunteers at the animal shelter, consideration of the election board, and setting hearing for renewal of our retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota wine licenses. Is there any of the consent items that council wishes to have removed and considered separately? Members? Alex? Members of the public, is there anything that they would like removed from the consent agenda and considered on its own? All right, hearing that none of the items would be removed for consideration on their own, is there someone willing to make a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make the motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We've got a first by Jim, a second by Nick to accept the consent agenda. Those in favor of that motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Unanimous on that. Item 9 is the claims. Do we have any adjustments or anything that we need to describe on the claims, Ann? Great. Anybody from council have questions on the claims? How about from members of the public? Anybody have a question on any item that's on the claims? Bonnie, I seen you moving. Were you moving up this way? All right, thank you. Hearing no questions on the claims, is someone willing to motion on the claims?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mark made a first to approve the claims as presented. Ruth second. All those in favor of that motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Please note that was unanimous. Public hearings, 10.1 is consideration to approve a special event license for Loud American Roadhouse on March 25th for the SEDC annual meeting. Somebody ready to present that a little bit? I mean, it's pretty standard for us. I mean,
Standard. We have everything we need as far as the paperwork and the money, so it's good to go. It's ready to
very
move
good.
forward.
Any questions from members of council? Would somebody be willing to motion the approval of the SEL March 25th for the Sturgis Economic Development annual meeting?
I'd make that motion. I'll second.
First by Nick, a second by Ruth. Those in favor of that motion indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Item 10.2 is another SEL for the Knuckle Saloon this time, March 22nd, for the Ducks Unlimited banquet at the Sturgis Armory. Same situation,
Situation.
Ann?
We have everything we need.
We've got a complete application. Everything looks good.
Yep, it does.
Any questions from council? Is anyone willing to motion on the SEL for the Ducks Unlimited event?
I'll move.
Second.
First by Mark, a second by Jesse to approve the SEL for March 22nd. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Excellent. Item 11 is reports. 11.1 is consideration of Resolution 2025-12, resolution excluding the within described property, and this has to do with our de-annexation of the Whiskey Ridge area, correct?
Correct, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council, up for consideration tonight is Resolution 2025-12, which is a resolution excluding certain property. This is about 63 acres that lies north of Bear Butte Road or Sly Hill. If you recall, those of you that were previously on council, we did have a resolution similar to this that passed in late October of 2024. However, there were some inaccuracies in that resolution, so it is being corrected and represented to you tonight. This did go before the planning and zoning as well, and they did recommend unanimous approval of this resolution to the council. Basically, this property lies on the northern cliff of above Sly Hill, and the city, quite honestly, we cannot provide any of the municipal services, water, sewer, garbage, roads. Sly Hill will remain a road that's under city jurisdiction and responsibility, but everything in the property will be removed and returned to the county. This will still remain within our 3-mile jurisdiction, and the lots that will be forthcoming as a part of the development will have to adhere to Meade County minimum requirements. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Rick, I'd just point out a couple things. The road, the current state law is that if one side of the road is city property, the road becomes the city's. So since the park area is adjacent to the road, that's the reasoning behind the road staying within city jurisdiction.
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, the road has always been in city's jurisdiction.
It
and so
has,
it's
but
not-
it's not a reasoning to that we would be moving away
correct.
from that is what I'm trying.
Correct.
This was already approved previously, and if I'm recalling correctly, we're just making a legal description correction. Is that the majority of our?
Correct.
Is that error what is highlighted in yellow on the attachment?
No, we had a reference to a wrong South Dakota codified law, and then we actually had a part of the legal description was wrong and needed to be corrected as well.
Anybody have any questions about Resolution 2025-12? Somebody willing to make a motion on this resolution?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
We've got a first by Alex, a second by Mark to approve Resolution 2025-12. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried unanimously. Item 11.2, consideration of Resolution 2025-14, final plat of Lots 2 revised and Lot 5 revised of the Davenport Ranch addition.
Mr. Mayor, up for your consideration tonight is a final plat, Resolution 2025-14. This is simply a lot line revision between Lots 5 and Lots 2 of the Davenport Ranch subdivision. It's a lot line adjustment, adding a little bit of acreage to one and taking it away from the other. This is medium density residential zoning. Both of the lots, after the lot line adjustment. They do meet all of the required areas, and all of the utilities are currently in place. It simply is a lot line adjustment. This did go to planning and zoning, and the recommendation was approval of the final plat.
Thank you, Rick. Council have any questions? Someone willing to make a motion adjusting these lot lines in as outlined in Resolution 2025-14?
I'll motion to approve.
We've got a first by Ruth, a second by Jim to approve Resolution 2025-14. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, 11-2 carried unanimously. 11-3 is consideration of Resolution 2025-13. Again, this is final plats, Lot 1, 2, and 3 of Edwardson subdivision, Meade County, South Dakota.
Mr. Mayor, up for your consideration is a plat presented to the city. This is a plat that actually lies within Meade County. However, it's within our 3-mile jurisdiction and within our area of responsibility. These 3 lots actually lie just to the north of what everybody would be familiar with is the drag strip out on the Glencoe property. The lots are accessed off of Highway 79. The DOT is the highway authority, and they have approved a permit and signed the plat. We did get input and comment from the county, and they had no objection to this either. Pretty straightforward. All of the lots do meet the county's minimum requirements, and all of the future subdivision and building will go through the city's design standards. So when they do decide to build on here, they will have to meet our ordinance on the on-site small wastewater systems. Water is already provided by Bear Butte Valley Water, so we don't have any issues there. This did go to planning and zoning, and the recommendation was the approval of the final plat.
Rick, just a procedural question. When we exercise within that 3-mile jurisdiction, does the county planning board approve that as well?
No.
Is there another layer that the county does on that?
No. Nope. It's outlined in our 3-mile agreement that the jurisdiction lies within the city planning and zoning and the city council. We do submit it to them for their consideration and comment. There's no formal approval. When it's in the other area, and I forget if it's 1 or 2, then just the opposite happens, is that it goes to the county for their consideration, so.
Great, thank you for the clarification on that. Any questions about the Resolution 2025-13 final plat that is actually in Meade County, but covered as part of our 3-mile jurisdiction agreement? Someone willing to motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
A first by Alex, a second by Mark to approve Resolution 2025. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Hey, are you going to provide a report maybe on this item 14 as well?
Sure.
Yeah. Or
was getting outta
11-4,
here.
excuse me.
Sure, I do
Yeah,
have that one.
consideration of use of city property for the Fort Meade Endurance Ride.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up for consideration is the use of city property for the Fort Meade equestrian ride, the endurance ride. Little bit of background information I did provide in the staff report. Kind of outlines what has happened, how it got out to Bear Butte, and this will be the 4th year that it's been located on the City Berry Stadium property. Up for discussion tonight is the event organizers are requesting the use of the Berry Stadium property from July 3rd through the 7th of 2025. This does allow for a day of setup and a day of tear down after the actual event. Some of the city resources that have been requested is the overnight use of the property for the contestants, 4 10-by-10 pop-ups 4 10 by 20 pop-up tents, 10 picnic tables, and 2 300-gallon garbage totes. We do require the use of certified weed-free hay, and that hasn't been a problem in the past. Staff did meet with the event organizers who are here in the audience to answer any of your questions to ensure that we don't have any conflicts that we have some of the previous years as far as the setup and the tear down of the trail marking. This also ensures that we don't have any conflicts with some of our other events, given when this event falls. We have a Wednesday night event right before it and then another one right after that. This event does charge some registration fees. However, those are minimal and they cover the cost of the veterinarians and the awards to the finishers. The overnight camping is necessary, as many of the participants do stay in their living quarters of their horse trailers. They are all self-contained units. And the part of the nominal fee that is charged also covers a donation that they make to the Sturgis Fire Department for their time to haul the water to the ride camp and fill the troughs for the horses to drink out of. In addition, they are required to provide porta potties, which they do. Again, we really haven't had any issues whatsoever with this group of people and what they want to use out there at Berry Stadium. There's quite a few documents contained within the packet, everything from their permits to their routes. City Administrator Jordan, myself, and some other staff met with them, had a good meeting, really cleared up all of the questions. And Jen, if you would like to add anything or you want me to keep rambling? Okay. I'd be happy to answer any of the questions you have.
Well, I can add just one quick comment. I mean, horse use, cavalry use has been part of the city of Ryder since we became the city. And so this is a good event. One comment is that Berry Stadium is still open for public use. So, I mean, the various trails and whatnot other users can use during this timeline. So it's not exclusive use.
Several hundred acres out there, and they're only using a very small port. Actually, the stadium itself, where the corrals are.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, anyway, is there any additional questions from council? Someone willing to motion the permit for special use of Berry Stadium?
I motion.
I would second.
We got a first by Tony, a second by Jim to approve the use of the city property at Berry Stadium. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Look forward to a great event. We had horse races at one point down Main Street. How about doing some of that? I've looked through history. It certainly happened. Well, maybe not right away this year. Thank you. Item 11.5 is consideration to approve the mayor to sign a professional service request with Cassell to assist with bank reconciliation catch-up. Administrator Jordan, are you, or Ann? Finance?
Yes. This is a professional service that Cassell offers to cities that get behind. And they have a team that will take all of our data. They'll take the bank statements, and they'll go through and just get it all reconciled for us. When they were here during training, they got us through February. And so what we are proposing for them to do is to get us from March of 24 to February of 25. And then I'm hoping that this will help. Now that Joanne has taken another position, that's left me with a short staff. And I'm not gonna be able to get it done by myself. So, the request then would be they do until February of 25, and then that would free me up also to do March, to get March in and just be on even ground in my office. The They are charging $200 an hour, but we have gotten in information. We've gotten all of our stuff into July. I've got maybe 2 or 3 different adjustments I have to do there, and July will be in. So I'm going to try to at least get 1 more month in there, and the more we have in there, the less time it will take them to get this finished up for February.
And this is another rung in the ladder, so to speak, of getting us to final balancing of all of our accounts to date.
Well, and for me to meet that deadline of March,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, well, just a comment, it does fit within the budget.
Yes, it is. We'll pay for it out of finance. We have room in the finance office budget.
Very good. Any questions from council?
Just some add-ons. As Ann was talking that, they're going to be doing that backlog from March, through February of '25. And again, as you just pointed out, they have been working quite a bit over the last 2-3 weeks. They've been kind of, locking us all out of their offices there in the afternoons while she and Joanne was working on that. They've worked the last 2 weekends on this also. So again, they have got through most of July, just a couple of the ones that Ann talked about, but it's still having them go back and dot the i's, cross the t's from February. And so, I feel pretty good about that. They were out here, as I reported last time. They were pretty good teammates. They were pretty knowledgeable. Obviously, they understand accounting. They understand our system because they're the ones that designed it and work it, and they have a relationship with us, and they understand our information and what we're doing at this moment. There will be another one. As we get done with this backlog, we've asked for them to give us a proposal for a audit prep. And we're just waiting for that proposal, and that would probably be on the next agenda to help us. Once this is, we get caught up at 24, we understand where the money's at in terms of what buckets they're in. As we start getting ready for our annual audit, they'll do an audit prep for us to help us prepare for that.
Kind of to add to that, Aaron, our auditor, Jeff, with Cadel Thorstensen, gave an indication that audit prep would be a positive move to help them through their audit process and even though their hourly rate seems high, it's much cheaper than the CPA firm's rate is. So
Yeah, absolutely.
overall a better deal.
Absolutely. Yep, that was his recommendation. And again, we have a good relationship with them. They know our system. And we were looking at maybe another third party to do this for us. And it seems like with Cassell would probably be the right approach.
Any members of council have questions?
Not really a question, just a statement. I think it'd be good to get this done. So with being down an employee, this will help get this done faster and get our report out.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, in terms for the city's benefit, people wondering where we are with the budget and all of the things that are trying to bring in this reconciliation, all of this fits within what we planned, does it not? This is not additional spending.
Well, we didn't necessarily plan on using this avenue, this process to get there, but it falls directly within us trying to get all of our audit findings from our 23 audit, everything that we've been working on trying to get reconciled and balanced through 24, and even the 25 pieces to date, because, a little bit, we've been so focused on the backside, in some cases it's hard to stay up on the front side as well. So this allows us to stay on the schedule that Administrator Jordan presented at our last regular meeting, or was that 2 meetings ago?
It was a
couple meetings ago, and gets this reconciliation complete. And what that really, in layman's terms, is we have a lot of funds, and we got to make sure that everything is accounted for in the proper bucket, if you will, the proper account. I mean, right, our checkbook is not a family checkbook, so we need to make sure that our accounts are balanced. So.
Yeah, and that report that was provided a month ago, this was one of the options that was considered, but at the time we were full strength with our finance office, so we felt pretty comfortable that we were able to meet that timeline. with Joanne's departure, then we started to reconsider that we probably weren't able to do that with what we had. And so to be able to try to get this done, to meet that intent of having that clear picture as we go into April, we felt this was probably the only other option that we had that would help us do this.
And to Alex, your comment, yeah, we do need to get this done. This is probably our most important item right now, especially.
And once this is caught up and brought current, this isn't an ongoing thing necessarily. This is, you don't have a problem keeping caught up once we're caught up. The issue is the backlog.
And as Ann pointed out, was that having Cassell come in and carry on where she's at, that allows her now to continue to focus more on current operations. So, yeah, that's the correct statement there, Jesse.
Any other comments? Somebody willing to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
We've got a first by Mark, a second by Nick to approve the mayor signing a professional service request with Cassell to assist with bank reconciliation catch-up. Any further discussion?
I'm glad it's finally getting done.
All right, we'll call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. All right. We've been doing well. So item 11.6, it's consideration to approve the City of Sturgis 2025 fireworks display contract. That's an item that we worked heavily through when we developed the budget, and we maintained the budget for the city fireworks display that would be held on the evening of July 4th. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
And I would just say that I've been working with this J&M Displays, and they came in at $15,000. That was the bid that was brought in a couple months ago. And the guy said, "You're lucky you're locked in because now we're facing tariffs on fireworks." So, yay for us. So again, everyone should know July 4th, and it's a Friday night. So we usually go on July 3rd, but this year we're going on July 4th.
Outstanding. And of course, the launch site is the fairgrounds.
Yep.
Any additional questions or comments? Anything from the public? Is someone willing to make a motion on the agenda item to approve the contract for the 2025 fireworks?
A motion.
Second.
First by Alex, a second by Jesse to approve the contract for 2025 fireworks on July 4th. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. All right. Item 11.7, consideration to approve the Sturgis Chamber of Commerce 2025 agreement. Historically, we've had contracts with the Chamber of Commerce. This one is slightly different because they are taking on some additional event items for us as part of our 2025 budget. Aaron, are you going to make a...
Yes, Governor. I guess, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, for your consideration is this agreement between the City of Sturgis and the Chamber of Commerce. This is our annual agreement. Probably the significant change in this one is, the Chamber is going to be taking on the Music on Main. In the past, we've had 8 events, and this year they're looking at doing 12 events. We'll be going basically up to the rally, the 30th, right before the rally, and right after the rally, up through the first weekend in September. There's one change on here before you would, just for your consideration, before you vote on this, that the amount on in number 4, now this was something that between Veronica and I were working this towards the very last minutes of trying to get this submitted. And the amount there says 156,667. That amount should be 146,467. What we did is in letter B there, it's 59,800. That was 70,000. However, the city of Sturgis has a contract, a 5-year contract with a sound company to provide music at Harley Point, both on Music on Main and during the rally. Second year of that 5-year contract. So instead of having us pay the chamber and then them turn around and pay us back so we can fulfill that contract, we just debited them $10,200, and that's why it doesn't show up in that number 156,664. It should be the 146,467, and that was on me, Veronica. I think I sent that to you and I forgot to get that changed. So, but Veronica is here. If you have any questions, I know she'd be happy to answer.
Well, we'd certainly like to have her come up and address us a bit. I mean, first question to be is has the chamber board approved this contract? Are you all good?
Yes, Mayor, Council, thank you.
The governor, I mean.
My name is Veronica. I'm the Executive Director of the Sturgis Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. Thank you. And yes, our board did look at it. Our executive committee looked at the changes after the fact, and it's all approved on our end.
Outstanding. Well, I, for one, am excited to see how some of the additional events and some of the events that are bookmarking the rally a little closer are attended.
Right, me too.
Any
I
comments?
know that's one thing that I heard a lot of is people wishing there was more after the rally. You know,
Yeah.
they felt like the rally robbed them out of a whole month of summer, so this will be nice to see.
Yeah, in our initial conversations with your legal and finance, that was one of the things that you guys really wanted to see, and we were willing to bring that to the table as well. So I think it'll go over quite well, but first year, we'll see what happens.
Hey, Veronica, could you give just maybe a 10,000 review of the events? We talked about the bike series, the amateur bike series, and then also a couple run events.
Within the Music on Main?
Yes.
Yep, so the Music on Main series, we're looking at starting it that second Wednesday of June, and we'll have, tentatively, it's still in progress, but we'll have more of the pro series up leading up to rally, and then after rally, more of a like recreational fun ride type of just a, more of a community deal here for people after the rally for those races. And then we'll have music throughout. We're already working on that. And of course, we're bringing back a whole bunch of kids activities, hopefully more. We've got a lot of cool ideas.
And I think one additional item is that 2 nights are also going to feature a foot race, off-road, off-trail, or excuse me, off-road running. And there's a couple of ideas and good level of participation in that realm. So
Yep.
be interesting to see what other things that brings for our community.
Right. Yep. We've talked about that. That part isn't spelled out in the contract, but we're looking at bringing that in as well. And hopefully 2 of those this year, and we'll see if people like it and then keep it going.
I guess for me, the only other comment that we can make is we have not done an event like the Volksmarch will not be an event that the chamber runs this year. So
Right.
there is some cause and effect through this.
Yep, we had to scale back in a couple areas, especially for our summer events, but I think bringing Music on Main under our umbrella is a good thing. We're excited to do it. Our team is back there, and they've got a lot of ideas, and they've already been running with a lot of this work, so it's happening.
Yeah, and you're also doing your Battle of the Bands and your art. Help me with the title. I'm drawing them.
Yep, we've got this will be the 5th year of the Sturgis Art Festival that happens downtown on June 7th, all day. And then 3 years ago, we brought in the Battle of the Bands to make that bigger and better and include more kinds of art in that festival. And that's a huge success and keeps growing and growing. And so both of those things will be on June 7th with some activities the night before on the 6th as well.
Awesome. And then I think you round the year up with the tree lighting, right?
Yep, we've got holiday stuff, plenty of holiday activities. We'll be rolling all of that out, hopefully with some enhancements too that we've been talking about. So yeah, we're just trying to do everything more and better and really hone in on the things that the community likes and wants to see, and for our visitors as well.
Any questions for Veronica?
Yes, Veronica, are we going to still be able to have the vendors down during the Music on Main?
Yep,
Do
yep,
they
we've
just
got
reach
that
out-
worked up. They can
just
reach out to the
you?
chamber.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, any other questions? Anything from the audience? Someone willing to motion?
I would motion to approve with the change that we talked about, instead of 156, 667 to 146, 667. Is that right?
467, isn't it?
What was it? The 146?
146, 467.
467.
I'd second that.
All right, we've got a first by Ruth to approve the chamber contract with an adjustment of the payout to 146, 467. That was seconded by Tony. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. That motion is carried unanimously.
Thank
Item-
you.
Thank you, Veronica. We're looking forward to a great season, or 3 seasons. First day of spring is coming up in a couple days. Already. Item 11.8, consideration to approve Resolution 2025 15, a resolution establishing the municipal utility rates for the city of Sturgis in 2025.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, first off, please accept my apologies on this. This is generally a resolution that you would have seen much earlier in the year. Generally, this coincides with the second reading of the budget ordinance, because the rates based in the utility resolution are based on the revenues that are contained within the budget. So we have to try and meet what we have budgeted for our revenues. With all the shuffle around, we simply missed it. It got overlooked. We did take it to MUB and get recommendation. However, I failed to bring this forward as a part of that process in early January. So we are kind of a little late on this, and our revenues will be affected somewhat based on this, because it's still, should you guys adopt this resolution tonight, it's still got another 20 days before it comes effective. But at any rate, following the passage of the second reading of the 2025 budget, the City Council established the community's revenue estimates based on certain changes in utility rates. This is based on the annual cost that includes city taxes and city utilities. Some of the reasons why we do have increased utility rates are simply inflation. Also to try and help maintain and upgrade current and new infrastructure, compliance with all of our regulatory agencies, which may be DANR, EPA, some of our, when we get SRF loans, for example, we have to maintain, part of the consideration when we get those loans is what our existing rates are. And as bad as it may sound, the lower your rates are, the less that you qualify when we get those SRF loans for these big projects. And the reasoning behind that is they figure if your rates are that low, then you probably really don't need the assistance from the government. If you have really high rates, then they tend to give you more. They tend to give you more principal forgiveness. They tend to give you more grant money. But it's all based on consideration of what your current rate structure is. Debt service, we need to ensure that all of our finance projects, whether we're using bonds or loans, and require those regular payments, that we have enough funded to make those. Population growth, service quality improvements, and then just simply operating costs. Every year it costs more and more to produce a gallon of water. No different than it costs more to produce energy, whether it's electricity, whether it's gas. All of the utility rates generally increase across the board. The MUB did make the following recommended rate increases, and that was 3% increase in residential lines, and we don't have commercial lines in water because the water is based off of the size of the service line. However, the recommendation was across the board a 3% increase in water, sewer, sanitation on residential and a 5% on commercial accounts. This would also include a 3% increase on the availability fees that we currently have. And as you look at the resolution that was presented, all of those fees are outlined in there. Lots of information to talk about when we talk about raising utility rates. One of the things that we look at and we use is every year we get a rate structure that's provided, and it shows kind of where we sit as a community. And I will share with you, and again, this isn't every community in South Dakota, but of the communities that we participate in this study, Sturgis in 2024, our bill to produce based on 6,000 gallons of water and wastewater use. And again, you have to, this isn't always an apples to apples comparison because everybody's ordinances and rate structure are very, very different, but this does take whatever municipality's rate structure is and base it on 6,000. So we are comparing 6,000 gallons of water. Sturgis's would be $80.05 per month. Some of the other examples, actually there was only two that were lower than us, were Watertown and Aberdeen. Huron is $90.44, Spearfish is $98, Rapid City $102.87, Pierre $106.13, Rapid Valley $109.55, Box Elder $139.09. So again, we are, as we look regionally, our rates are still fairly low compared to that of some of our neighboring communities. With this, when I did look at some of the rates that we were looking at, for example, Spearfish, they adopted a 5-year rate structure. Residential water was 3% over the 5 years. Sewer residential was 5%, and then raises to 5.5%, and then 6%, and then 6.5% for the last 2 years. So in 28 and 29, it's going to be a 6.5% increase. Garbage, solid waste, 4.25% this year, 4.25% next, and then 5.25% for 27, 28, and 29. Commercial water across the board, a 5%. Commercial sewer, 7%, 7.5%, 8%, and 8.5% for 28 and 29. So you can see that really our rates and what is being proposed isn't out of the ordinary. Rapid City approved as well. They approve a 5-year cycle. Their water for the next 5 years is going up 10% each year. So just some notes to point out. I guess with that, I would answer any questions that you may have, anything you want to further discuss. But again, this is something that we need to do and we should have done earlier on in the year.
I guess I'd like to clarify that this is our base rates. We're probably going to be, once we're reconciled, we're going to be making sure that we have adequate funds in those surcharge categories. And of course, Rick, maybe I'll take a quick stab at it. I mean, the surcharges are separate loans. The loan requirements have us needing to have a separate funding source with 110% of a year's payments set aside. And so annually, we need to take a look at those to make sure that our collection of surcharges is proper. And so that's separate. The comment about surcharges, I mean, we're talking about inflation driving our base rates up. Surcharges, as we get new accounts, should actually go down. We spread the the loan payment for those special projects out more broadly. And so as we approach that, I mean, and we're a few meetings away from having the review of surcharges, but I certainly would like to see us take a look at, why are we not charging the surcharges to our availability fee customers? I mean, everyone else pays it. I'm not sure why we would or would not include that, because that actually throws our budget off on that, right? I mean, because we're counting on all of our accounts paying into that, annually, and I'd certainly be interested in seeing some research done on how other communities do vacant lots. I mean, as it is right now, if you've got a tapped water and sewer line that goes to your property, you need to pay the availability fees, even if even if you're not planning on using any. And so we should probably understand if there is a way to help the rest of our residents out with some of these surcharges as well. I'm certainly a big fan of trying to look at the surcharges, making sure that we meet the need of 110% of the funding, but not being over that, and making sure that we're capturing, everyone that's connected to our utility system. And that reminded me, we hit 20 years of having safe, clean drinking water. Good job for you on that. We should have got that in the announcements and praise, but I took us down a different path for a second there. Nobody wants to talk about raising rates. I think if we would do some evaluation of our surcharge structure and where we're applying that, we might actually be able to see some reductions possibly.
Sure, and everything that you mentioned, Mayor, is correct. What we're considering year to year annually is our base rate. With that, in addition to that, we are trying to capture our availability fee, because of course, as the cost goes up and that availability piece comes into play, and that availability is for accounts that normally get turned off or are seasonal. For example, some of the buildings down on Main Street that are owned by out-of-state vendors or whatever, and they come in and they turn the water on for a month or 2 months. The other 10 or 11 months, they're paying that availability fee. So again, to have a stagnant availability fee and not have it at least recouping the cost of living adjustment probably doesn't make sense. So that is what we're talking about tonight. You're correct. We will be revisiting the surcharges in the very near future, and typically we do see those go down as you bring on more customers, as your debt gets paid off in some cases. Some of the surcharges we're charging right now for ongoing SRF, I mean, those wouldn't go down, but the ones that we're paying as we pay those loans down, we don't need to capture. It's only 110% of what we have left to owe. So absolutely, all of those across the board, all of those, we've got the Lizelle Street, we've got some Phase 1, Phase 2 surcharges. Those should be going down. You're absolutely right on that. The other thing is, talking about availability, we did add some language here a few years ago that on some of these subdivisions that had connections, and again, probably on the eastern part of town, Vernon Heights was one, where when that developer put that subdivision in, he stubbed out all of those services, and in some cases, those services ended up, their life expectancy, their was already gone before we even had a house hooked onto them. So they had sat there in the ground for 20 years before we even put a house on it. So the expectancy of what the life expectancy of those pipes in the ground was already over before we were incurring or recouping any money back out of them. So that was a change that was made in the MUB regulations. I've talked to to Administrator Jordan, and I think that that's one of the pieces as we do our recodification that we're going to try and lump in together, and that would be a perfect time to address some of the things that you mentioned about the vacant lots. Again, when we put in all of the infrastructure to these lots and then they sit there dormant, we're not recouping that, and again, in some cases, the life expectancy of those utilities are already gone. You know, the Glovers is a good portrait of that, where we have all that infrastructure there ready to be developed, and it didn't happen, and we didn't get any money out of it, and we're already to a point where those lines probably need to be replaced. So we have noted that, and I think we'll address that in the future. We'll address the surcharges, but what's before you today is the 2025 rates, and I think we'll have some other rates that will coincide with that too. We may look at some of the things like our rubble site. This one, I believe, based on how the ordinance is written, if you adopt this today, it also takes into effect, there's some other second and third order causes like the special sanitation. I believe my reading of it is that if we increase the sanitation rates by 3%, that would be covered with the special sanitation, which is a vendor fee that we charge for hosting an event 4 days or longer. We send out a special sanitation fee, so there are some second and third order effects by doing this, but I think that what we have proposed tonight covers all of our anticipated cost increase.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions from council?
So that's about $2 per household increase?
Roughly,
Yeah,
yes.
quick math was less. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, nobody, like you said, nobody wants to talk about increasing rates, but, you know, inflation is real. You know, I $2. I don't want to minimize any increase, but it seems reasonable.
Jesse, let me just say, and this, we've not had a chance to talk about this, so in some cases we're just talking, this is fresh. When I first moved here 6 years ago, almost 7, my utility rates were almost 50% higher than they were when I first came here. And that comes 3% at a time, probably. I wasn't on the council. I haven't seen all of these notes. I can just tell you the bills that I pay for me. And I represent, I think, the way I see it, I represent the city in one regard. I have responsibility, Rick, for you and what your department does, and the city in general. But for the other, I think of the people that I represent in Ward 3, and there are many retirees who are not getting those increases in their own income. And I think the city has some, I'm not saying we're not responsible, but we have to see the people that are paying the bills. And I feel inflation, the very fact that it continues, like it's real, Jesse, because we raise the rate, so that we help the inflation with our increases. Somebody's got to take a lead in all of this sometime, and we did this with our budget. I remember those of you that sat in on the budget that we did for the city. We knew we were going to be short of money, and we had to make decisions sitting in that meeting, what we were going to leave out and what the parts that we needed. And you know, I know that doesn't make it easy. If we say no to this, that doesn't make it easy. But at what point do we represent the people that make up the city? And I think I'm going to vote no, because I think someplace we have to make a decision. And I'm not saying that's going to be the answer to everyone, Rick, certainly, and I appreciate all that's being done. But I think that the people of Sturgis continue to get increases. Our insurance has gone up. The people in my little cul-de-sac where I'm kind of in charge. The only thing we have kept the same is the fees we charge for our homeowners association, and I'll say that's because I was in charge and we haven't raised them. And we've made some adjustments, but we haven't raised the prices. So, we need to be careful, even though this will undoubtedly pass, and I think we have reason to. We need to be careful that we're not taking just 3%. But as I said, when I got here, and I'm not in a position where we are short of money, but I'm retired, and so the same situation in terms of income. My utility fees are almost 50% more than when I started. And I don't think that's necessarily irresponsible, but it just happens 3% at a time. And I think that's the thing that we need to be careful of, that we're not looking at people and saying, well, it's only $3 or $2. And so where do we start? And that would be my thought.
Sure, and I certainly appreciate that, and I pay those same fees as well, and $2 is in my pocket too. I think it's important to point out, if you recall back in 2021, the city of Sturgis, the city council reduced our utility rates across the board, and in the 16 years that I've been associated with the city and in public works, I can't ever think of a time any municipality lowered their utility rates. So again, I don't think that this is just a nominal, hey, we're increasing utility rates just because we need to increase utility rates each year. We are looking at what the cost of doing business is, and that is the cost of employees, the cost of insurance, the cost of fuel, the cost of doing business continually increases. And one other thing that you brought up is nothing ever goes away. We're currently going through and on the tail end of going through a procedure, and particularly in your neighborhood, and affects you and all of your neighbors, where we're going through with the Vanacker Creek drainage, and here in the near future, all of those homeowners will no longer be required to have flood insurance. So that's a cost saving. So I just, again, I'm only pointing it out to show that the city, when we're able to, we do really look at things, and we try our best to try and reduce the cost of doing business. And some of that is even in our own reorganization and trying to create efficiencies and cut budgets and all of those things. But the unfortunate thing is it costs more today to produce a gallon of drinking water than it did last year, and than it did 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And that's probably going to be the case 5 years from now in the future. It's going to cost more as well. But we can't lose money on it either.
Jim, I can maybe add a quick comment. I mean, first, normally we would be doing this associated with our budget process so that we could, we're making predictions within the budget. So not that means we absolutely have to make these pieces, but if we did it in conjunction with, we would end up with an approved budget that had these fundings included. We have included that in the 25 budget. But again, I still get every piece of what you're talking about. I think some of the additions, and that's what we were talking about earlier in the discussion on this item, was the surcharges. I mean, we've added some high-cost infrastructure. I mean, we've got a sewage treatment plant that's going to serve our community for one heck of a long time, but it wasn't cheap, and we're paying for it. We've got, some wells that we're replacing, and those are what our surcharges are, and hopefully we can come up with some ways to make sure that we're capturing those surcharge fees more broadly, and hopefully that drops the overall rate for everyone, including yourself, myself, the majority of the people, probably everyone that's in the room here, and that we're moving the right direction on those.
I'll say, Rick, we really appreciate what you did with the EP or the FEMA to get that the rate changed on our street, and that Not for me specifically, but I know one of the homeowners this morning told me that it's going to save them $2,000 a year in insurance costs.
It'll be a huge impact, and you know, in hindsight, probably something we should have done when we built that channel. At the time, the council didn't think that was maybe necessarily something that the city should take on, but more the property owners. But without a doubt, really felt by the people that it affects.
Yeah. Any other discussion from council? How about members of the public? Bonnie, you got a comment on the base fee structure?
Bonnie Albert, Sturgis. And I want to preface this by saying these are instant thoughts, not thought out ahead of time, so I'll try and be concise. And I want to say, Rick, none of it is in criticism of the work you do, because you know I'm the one who's driving around at night and see you in the ditch in the middle of the night when the water and the mud and the cold are flying everywhere, and I do appreciate what you do. I appreciate the comments that Jim has made, because he addresses those things that are not just on my mind, but serious concerns to me, because unlike Jim, I am to that point of the ends aren't meeting on my budget. And never, ever did I think that I would be here at this age and stage of my life. I thought I worked hard. I thought I spent wisely. I thought I did all the right things. But what I've seen in the last year is my Social Security went up a big $15. My insurance went up $12. My water bill went up $10, and now it's going to go up another $3. So now I'm farther in the hole and looking for a job. But the things that I see, I do have a question, and I wish I had my water bill in front of me and I wouldn't have to ask it, but the minimum water bill, is that a certain number of gallons, whether I use it or not?
Yes.
And how many?
5,000.
Okay.
The base rate is based off of
Right.
is the minimum.
And I understand that, and I understand the structure of that and how that works. But I am a household of one. And for most of the year, I don't use my minimum. And when I do go over the minimum in the summer, I pay for every bit of it. I'm a household of one. And I drive down the street. I put my garbage dumpster out with possibly 3 grocery store sacks of trash. That would be a big week for me. Usually 1, usually not even 1. Yet I drive down the street and I see a household of 3 adults, 5 children, a couple of dogs. They've got a dumpster the same size as mine. The lid is always flopping open on it. It's stuffed to the brim and over. Their broken bicycles and their extra stuff is sitting around the base of it. And they're paying the same thing I am for my garbage to be picked up. I drive down the street and there's a big dumpster, and I see a church do a remodeling job and put all their cabinets that they pulled out in that big dumpster. And I went in the night and pulled it out and drove it to the rubble site the next day, because that's where it belongs. It should not go in the garbage truck paying Belfouche to take old cabinets. So we're not educating people. But in our pricing process, we're also not doing anything to make the pricing equitable. And we talk mostly in terms of equality. So equality is, I get this size garbage can and I pay this much for it, and you get this size garbage can and you pay this much for it, no matter what we put in it. Things being equitable is a different distribution. It's each getting what they need or something proportionate to what they're using. And I know what a nightmare of billing that would be. But I'm saying it is really disheartening to drive my streets and see those abuses, and no one's getting called out on that. It just keeps happening, and I keep paying the same amount. We see it at recycling. I mean, yes, there's a certain degree of affordability in this town. When you see the boxes that are going in to the cardboard corral, the things that we are buying and throwing their containers away on, I haven't bought those things in years, but I'm getting my bills paid. There's no equity, and that's troublesome. And some of us are going under and scrambling to do the best we can to maintain. But I appreciate what you're doing. I think we need to do more education. I think the services we provide could be, I don't want to say cheaper, but more economical. I think that they could be more affordable to provide if people used them more appropriately. I'd like us to see more education. I don't know where we are in recycling. I know that kind of went down the rabbit hole there, so I don't know where we are for the time being. But those are my rambling thoughts that just came up while I was sitting here. And I thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Bonnie. Sounds like there might be some level of Sturgis information page sharing that we could do about trying to keep costs down by using the Rebel site and the yard waste locations. Any further discussion? Anything? Anyone else from the public got a comment? Someone willing to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
We've got a first by Mark to approve the MUB recommended utility rate increases. A second by Ruth. Is there any further discussion?
It'd be great to see if we could do something to put the availability people in on some of this stuff as well.
Yeah. Thank
Hopefully we could lower the cost.
No other questions? No other comments? We'll go ahead and call the question. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. No. That motion has carried 6-1, right? Jim was the no vote. We do have a need for executive session. We have a personnel item and some contractual items. Our city attorney is actually going to phone in and speak with us while we're on the phone or while we're in the executive session room. We'll remove ourselves to the upstairs conference room. Is there someone willing to make a motion to go into executive session for those two reasons, personnel and contract?
I'll second.
First by Jim, second by Tony to go into executive session. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, thank you.
too good. Yeah.
Hopefully we light it up here.
Part of my problem is I made notes and I keep reading.
It says it's live. Are we? Good to go? All right, we're back and ready to come out of executive session. Is there someone willing to make a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll motion.
Second.
All right, we got a first by Alex, a second by Nick to come out of executive session. Those in favor of returning to regular session from executive session indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Okay, we have no further action for the night. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First by Tony, second by Alex to adjourn. Those in favor of adjourning indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's the meeting for tonight.